County Community Navigator. So Josh will give a presentation regarding how residents may access community services and supports. And Josh is joining us virtually.
With the Manager of Social Services of Middlesex County, Joe Windsor. We're going to go through a bit of an update regarding the Middlesex Homeless Action Committee, or MHAC as we refer to it as, and kind of what we've been doing over the last little bit here regarding the kind of what some plans could be for some homelessness supports in Middlesex County and in Strathroy as well. Let's get things started here. All right. Perfect. Oh, perfect. All right, on the next slide. All right. Yes, again, thank you very much. I thought I'd share a little bit about kind of maybe a bit of the history of the Middlesex Homeless Action Committee, and kind of, I guess, really what our intents of running this group would be. So it originally began as a Strathroy-Caradoc Homeless Action Committee. This would have been a few years ago, my understanding is probably 2019, but kind of as the pandemic has happened and kind of we've seen some of these issues kind of, I guess, come out of that, is that it was kind of decided that it was kind of moved to more of a Middlesex Homeless Action Committee, as it was kind of realized that it wasn't just Strathroy and the county that was really kind of struggling with some homelessness and concerns. And realistically, a lot of the community partners already engaged in this committee kind of already serve the entirety of Middlesex County anyways. Not everyone, but I would say the majority of our participants would. So it kind of just made a lot of sense to kind of focus on a Middlesex County as its entirety regarding to with our responses and what kind of programming we can get kind of up and going. So a lot of this is development of resources. Of course, a lot of our funding here in Middlesex County for homeless programming or anything kind of associated with that, like food supports, for example. A lot of these things are funded at least partially by the Homeless Prevention Program, HPP. You may be familiar with it as, or previously it was known as CHIPPY, the Community Homeless Prevention Initiative, and then as well some of the other organizations that also participate with this group also kind of run their own fundraising for particular programs if needed for additional funding. So we really kind of focus our I guess our efforts in really to a couple different streams here. One would be the advocacy for more homelessness supports, of course. That's kind of almost, I guess I'd say almost the beginning of it was kind of the idea of focusing on getting development of additional resources for the community at large, and making sure that we're able to help all the community partners involved are more able to serve our vulnerable populations in the county here. Top of that, another big one is even just creating awareness is another big kind of hurdle I would say that the MHAC group is trying to overcome. It's just making sure that the reality of the situation is kind of known to the community, and just so that we're there to help, and basically just ensure that we have, I guess, a better way of saying is the idea is that we are sharing what we already see about the homelessness situation in Middlesex County, and ensuring that we advocate for those folks and spread awareness of their situation throughout the public as well, just so that reality is, so that we don't have to I guess what I'd be looking to say here is make sure that the public is aware of the extent of the homelessness situation in Middlesex County is maybe the best way of saying it, because that can sometimes be a hurdle in accessing new supports, is in making sure that the supports are needed in the area. And then another big part of what we've been able to accomplish with the intent of this committee, maybe not so much initially as part of the intent of it, but it's definitely kind of evolved from it, is we've really the committee's really brought together a lot of the community partners who serve Middlesex County in a way that really hasn't been done in the past, at least not to this extent, and especially to support a very particular population, which would be our homeless population. And we've been able to really work together very closely. On the next slide here coming up, it'll be kind of an overview of a couple of different partners, there we go, who do serve on the MPAC committee. And I always like to say, it's who participates in the committee. We don't really have like a members list per se. It's more of a collection of social organizations in serving Middlesex County, working together with a common cause. So we've kind of listed a few of the more prominent members or participants to our group here. I won't necessarily read through all of them here, but it's kind of important to show, just as you're going through it, you can see a lot of these organizations are county-wide, and a lot of them will serve the entirety of the county. Again, just go back to that original point, it's made a lot of sense to kind of alter MPAC to be more of a county response or county-wide response with all these different organizations, because a lot of them were serving that area anyways, and it just made a whole lot more sense to tackle it all at once, considering the partners at the table. And I think I'll shoot this off to Joe.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Josh. And we can go to the next slide, please. Thanks. So just to kind of give you some updates on what we've been working on. The committee went through a brainstorming session in late spring 2023 to determine kind of what will our next steps and what is our next path. So to frame our conversation, I used the Homelessness Prevention Program guideline service categories to create action steps that meets the needs in the county, all the way throughout the county, as Josh mentioned. So some action steps that we're currently working on kind of would say that we're a little easier to get up and running, is updating the middlesex.ca website. We're doing this to make it more of a kind of a repository of information for housing and homelessness supports for anybody in the county to use. Either it could be somebody that is facing homelessness or somebody that is just wanting to support somebody that is homeless. We are also providing information to different residents, as well for resources that are available both in the county and in London. So one of the big ones that came up was food insecurity. So one thing that we didn't have is a general list of all food banks that are available throughout the county, as well as what community meals and what days that individuals can access. So what we've done is collated them together, and we're creating a kind of just a list of the food banks and kind of a calendar for individuals to be shared throughout the county for folks to use it to know where to kind of go for a meal that's being provided by that community. Once that is completed, we will be sharing it out widely across the county as far as we can. As Josh mentioned, we have been also doing some advocating, and one of them is to update some bylaws if they are required for some of the changes that we're looking to make. We're also in the process of creating educational materials, and this will be both for tenants, landlords, and general population. As Josh had mentioned, sometimes that hidden homelessness is something that just needs to have a little bit of a light shone, and how do we support folks throughout the county. And as Josh also mentioned, as one of our biggest benefits is that the collaboration between our organizations have helped quite a lot in the sense to make sure that, if there are any gaps that are missing, that we are able to fill those, and just kind of a support system throughout the county and the community partners that are supporting our individuals. Go to the next slide, please. And what's next for the committee? So as the committee continues to grow and our needs continue to grow throughout the county, we understand that there's some big challenges ahead of us. in supporting the homeless populations, especially coming up in the winter months. We're completing the review of the needs of homeless individuals in the community to determine what services and supports are already offered, where there are gaps, and what are the best next steps. Some of these challenges are that we will continue to face, but be able to overcome, things like funding sources, location of centers that may open, volunteers that are required, and organizations to operationalize some of these programs. These are not easy things to overcome, but we're definitely confident in our community that we'll be able to get there. For this coming winter specifically, we'll continue to support individuals on a case-by-case basis. The Middlesex Accommodations Program through CMHA Thames Valley Addiction Mental Health Services at the Countryside Motel will continue to provide shelter and wraparound supports for up to 9 individuals and or families. I can also approve on a case-by-case basis motel or hotel stays for those nights that are really cold for individuals seeking support and shelter. During the regular business hours, the Middlesex Library is also an option for individuals to keep warm and receive information about housing and homelessness supports in the county. Any individual or resident in the county just needs to contact either social services or Josh directly for more information and supports on how we can support our individuals throughout the county that are either homeless or facing homelessness. And next slide, please. And that is just a general overview of kind of what the Middlesex Homeless Action Committee is up to, but we are available for any questions if anybody might have any.
Thanks, Josh and Joe. And just to make a quick note, Josh, you're located, your office is beside us at the library. So if people do need to reach out, and Joe, you're in the county building, for lack of a better word, but you're always available. So thank you. Any questions from
Absolutely,
council?
yeah.
Any questions from
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the Strathroy Library, usually Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And if I'm available, I am willing to help anyone who comes by.
Any questions from any members of council? Councillor Kennis.
I'm just wondering, Mr. Mayor, Middlesex County is pretty large, I guess. Do you try to deal with the individuals who are homeless within the communities that they are tied to or associated to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's always been kind of on the forefront of our minds as we go through this, is making sure that, people can get the help in the areas that they already live. I mean, Middlesex County is a large geographic area, but services can certainly vary, town to town, municipality to municipality. But as I mentioned, a lot of the organizations currently kind of tackle this, already kind of cover all those areas as well. So a lot of those individualized resources can be found in those environments as well.
Any other questions? Seeing none, just one final comment by myself, Josh and Joe, and for everyone. One of the reasons why I asked to do this is you mentioned about public awareness now, and out in the community, and whether it's on social media or talking to people, the question from the general public always is, what are we doing? So we do need to get the message out that there is good work happening, and we will find a way to do so. But thank you very much, and I think I'll see you in a week or so, so thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Now move on to item 3, the public meeting number 1. So the purpose of this public meeting is to consider an application for rezoning for the property located at 7620 Walker's Drive, Jaslow Farms Limited. I have a motion to open the public meeting. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Report to be presented by the planner. Would that be yourself, Director? Tim is there? There he is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is, as noted, a surplus farm dwelling severance. That the application before you is the rezoning that came from that application for severance. So this is a property on the north side of Walker's Drive between Sutherland Road and Adelaide. The entire parcel is just over 50 acres in size, and the surplus farm dwelling is right along Walker's Drive. It's just about a half of a hectare or 1.3 acres in size. That severance went forward to the Committee of Adjustment in July 6th, and it was approved conditional on a number of things, one of those things being this rezoning coming forward to council. And so this rezoning will take the A1 zone that currently exists on the property and rezone the farmland to an A3-8, which is a site-specific, that allows and allows for future agricultural uses, but recognizes a drive shed that has a slightly smaller side yard than would normally be permitted. So that's a 4-meter side yard setback. You can see it in the picture. It's just to the left of the yellow box being the newly created lot line for the surplus farm. So the surplus farm dwelling is getting a rezoning from A1 to A2-35, and that just restricts the permitted uses down to dwellings and alike, and restricts away the permission for livestock and other things such as that. So there weren't any comments specifically from any of the departments in objection to the application. There was a request from the Director of Planning to have that residential and accessory uses to the residential be the only permitted uses, and that's reflected in the draft zoning bylaw that's before you tonight as well. So staff are recommending approval of the application as it's considered to be consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with the official plan and Middlesex County official plan, as well as the local official plan. And it represents sound planning, and that's all found within the report, as well as I've just stated. I'm available for comments, but I'll leave it at that for right now.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any comments in support of the proposed rezoning? Seeing none. Any comments in opposition to the proposed rezoning? Seeing none. Are there any comments and questions from members of council? Seeing none, have a motion to close the public meeting. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, the meeting is closed. Recommendation that the rezoning application be approved. Motion, Councilor Hippel, second by Councilor Brennan. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Now move on to item 4, the approval of the minutes. Have a motion that the minutes be approved as written. A motion to approve the minutes. Councilor Kennis, second by Councilor Palmer. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Move on to item 5, drainage matters. This pertains to the Funk South Drain 2023. Engineers report consideration meeting, EPW 2023-47. Staff will give an overview of the work required. Will that be you, Director Strauss? Oh, we have. Okay, there we go. It's all yours.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. This report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act, which is repair and improvement to the existing funk drain. It was constructed in 1974 as a closed tile drain with a north and south drain and multiple branches to it. It is in a wet sand area, so the soil conditions have caused the drain to be required to be repaired frequently over time, and the landowners requested that it be replaced with a new drain. The design standards since that time have increased, so there is somewhat of an increase in tile size, but the idea of the drain, in this case, the replacement is more so to get a more stable and long-lasting pipe versus spending money on maintenance. So we are looking to replace the south drain as well as branch G. There is a branch F that is there, but the landowners don't require, so we are recommending that branch F be abandoned. The new drain will include 10-inch to 21-inch tile at a fairly flat grade. We are trying to keep it as high as we can because of the existing channel downstream is limited depth, and you don't want to be down in the water as much as possible. We want to try and keep it up. So we've done what we can in the new design to accommodate that. There'll be catch basins at lined fences to allow surface water and air to get into it. And I'd stop and open up to questions.
Okay. Any questions from any property owners who may be present? Seeing none, request from those present to add or remove their names from the petition. Seeing none, are there any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, from my own knowledge, does this drain run north to south or south to north?
Question? Yeah.
Caradoc's on a slight angle, so I'm going to get my bearings here. It would run from southeast to northwest. So north-south is what I call it. There is a bit of a debate what is with Caradoc.
Yeah. Any other questions? Seeing none, I have one, and it'll be, this will be the first time I'm going to reference the rainfall in southwest Middlesex and the abnormal with climate change. Do you care to comment on a municipal drain like this, how it would affect any rainfall in any of the urban areas? Is there a connectivity between, you know, the storm sewers and the rainfall and the municipal drains like this?
Agricultural drains are not designed or calculated in capacity in any way, shape, or form what an urban drain would be. The Ministry of Ag and Food puts out the design standards, and they recommend how much water the drain can remove over a 24-hour period. So it relies on subsurface drainage, which is systematic tiling or random tiling in fields, which will then drain water from the ground into their own piping, and they'll tap their own piping into the municipal drain. They do put catch basins on there to allow surface water, so there is some additional capacity that's there for surface water, but it is by no means considered a storm sewer or a culvert that would be in a ditch. Typically, you know, that would be a much greater degree. I would suggest if people do ask what the comparison is, our best estimate would be around 25% of a 2-year rain event. So it could be multiple days for a municipal agricultural drain to catch up and drain the area from all of the water. Urban systems are designed to take the peak rain event during a certain level of storm. So it's based on time and distance that the water takes to get to a certain point.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion that council adopt the engineer's report for the Funk South Drain 2023 and give first and second reading provisional bylaw number 56-23 for the project. Have someone bring a motion. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Now move on to communications. And just for council, just based on the advice of the clerks, I'm going to ask that we have a motion to receive all communication first, and then if any councillor wishes to address any individual ones, we can. That's just so nothing gets missed. So if we have a motion to receive all the communication first, Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Any councillor wish to address any particular communication? Councillor Kennis?
Yeah, I wanted to just bring forward 6.5 and 6.6 briefly. It is regarding, I guess, a movement to have AMO work with the provincial government to strengthen the Municipal Code of Conduct Act. And we've already supported this in July through a resolution to support the suggestions put forward by AMO. But I just wanted to mention that at the recent AMO conference in London, a group of young women brought forward a question to one of the most, I guess, attended sessions at AMO annually is something affectionately called the Bear Pit, and that's where all of the provincial ministers are on the dais, and participants, so the 2,000 participants are free to ask questions of the ministers. And this question came, as I said, from a group of young women who asked about strengthening the code of conduct, and it received a prolonged standing ovation, probably more support than any other item or discussion point at AMO, and where they asked for the AMO resolution to strengthen municipal code of conduct. And Minister Clark, who was still the Minister of Municipal Affairs at the time, acknowledged their request and mentioned that since last October's municipal election, a number of councillors and mayors have resigned under, just tired of the stress of their work that they're trying to do, and the number of senior staff at a number of municipalities across Ontario have left their jobs again. Just too much pressure and too much grief from various groups and individuals, and I just want to say again, I totally support strengthening of the code of conduct. It's don't want to get too deep into this, but when one puts their name up to serve as an elected official, they do so looking to serve and make their communities better places. And if they're constantly being harassed about the work they're doing, that's just inappropriate. And the same goes for staff. The staff are working for their municipalities to improve and strengthen their municipalities, and again, every day they face harassment and grief about the work that they're doing or not doing. It's just uncalled for. And so I just wanted to mention the support that was received for this whole initiative, and I hope it carries on, and I hope that we all continue to put pressure on the provincial government to strengthen the Municipal Code of Conduct Act. So I apologize for the length of my spiel, but I think it's a very important topic.
No, thank you. Any other correspondence? Anyone wishing to speak to? Councillor Derbyshire.
I'd like to pull out, I'd like to pull out 6.1, and I guess through you to council, upon reading this report, I found at the start where they said they couldn't really do anything with it. They then go on to tell us why the municipality and staff is right in doing what they did against the complainant, even though they had no power to really say anything about it according to them at their own thing. So why did we have them, I'm gonna say, waste time and money and effort into a report that they really can't, they said at the start, the complainant, we can't say anything, it's against acts. So I don't understand if we've kind of wasted our money or whether this is just standard practice that they send a lengthy report on what they reviewed, even though they can't really speak to it other than to say they can't do anything about it. So I don't know what our thoughts are, or who's through you to who, where this goes. That's my thoughts on reading the report. I was a little confused as to why it went on as long as it did.
I think Councilor Derbyshire, the CAO, could answer, but I think I'll take a run at it. I think we understand the role of the ombudsman, and it's an external review. It's not our report, right? So we don't author it, or we don't ask for it. We employ the ombudsman, but they're entirely independent of us. So if there's a complaint received, the way I understand it, they go about their business and they do their business. So I don't think anyone in council, or even myself as the mayor, was aware that the ombudsman was going about their business, but and I understand what you're saying, but it is strictly a third-party, hands-off review that's triggered by any citizen through a complaint of some form. So it's not up to us, or the council or staff, to give yay or nay with the report progressing, or even to, we can disagree with it, but it's entirely third party. Yeah. Councilor Derbyshire.
Through you to you, through the chair to you, I guess this is where I would ask then, is this report just then thrown out? Or because we accept it for information, can it now be used in further negotiations down the road?
I think I'll defer to the CAO, because you used the word there, negotiations, so I'm going to defer to the CAO.
Through your worship to Councillor Derbyshire, this stays because it's part of the council agenda and will be received by council. It stays as part of the official record. And then the information, certainly from a staff perspective, we review these and take these reports seriously, and we'll take whatever steps we need to take or any suggestions that come out of these reports as we move forward.
Any other? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
May I just comment to the discussion before us currently?
Yeah.
So just for clarity for people that are listening, and correct me if I'm wrong, so my question is, can you confirm that the complainant, the person that filed this, is a group of residents, the owners of Queen Street, Lions Park Drive, and Adelaide Road? I'm actually reading from the report itself on, I guess it would be paragraph 2, where it says on June 23rd, 2003, our office, meaning the Ombudsman's office, received a complaint, which they refer to as the complainant, from the property owners of Queen Street, Lions Park Drive, and Adelaide Road in Mount Bridges. So we didn't initiate this. This was brought on by from our constituents in Mount Bridges, and they've been identified as that group. And then the Ombudsman prepared this report after reviewing everything that they say inside the report that they reviewed. That's correct, right?
I'm going to defer, because this is the first time I read this as like everyone else, so I'm going to say on the surface, it appears so, and that's the way that it reads to me also, that it was triggered by a citizen complaint.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor to the question that Councillor Derbyshire posed, I think the value in this is that, the question about what happened and how it happened, needed to be tested by someone other than a municipal staff member. And that test, I think, has come out in this report. And the one part that I think I took as something that struck to me is that we know through all running through election that there was a lot of anger out there and a lot of information and misinformation, and this issue has persisted. And at some point, this issue has to be put to bed for the municipality to move forward. And I think that as we went through the process of getting to hire a new CAO that council chose, is that it references that there were some communications to the residents that I think cumbersome was the word they used. Can't quite remember the word, but to me, as we went through our process to hire a new CAO, that was something that I think we all recognized had happened, and it was an important factor into who we ended up hiring. So I think there's a lot of value in this report for us to learn from, in terms of when we're communicating to our residents and the timeframes and what words we choose. to try and prevent the anger that still persists. And so to me, whether or not that they can actually do anything, there's value to report in that for us to learn from.
Any other, Councilor Derbyshire, then we'll move on.
Okay, I guess I'll go through you to this open discussion to council. My point to this was what they said was, we can't speak really to any of the complainant's comments because there's still due process. So they still have the right to appeal and all of this. They then go on to speak to everything the complainant speaks of, but only speaks of it from staff's perspective. Because they can't use the complainant's perspective because they haven't used proper process, is what the ombudsman says. So that's where, even though yes, you reviewed everything, but you only reviewed it from one side and gave that side of it. That's because they say we can't do anything with it because the complainant has a process that is due process, and they still have that option and time frame is available to do that. But here, let us explain what we saw and what we think.
I think I may suggest, Councilor Derbyshire, that your argument or anyone would be with the ombudsman rather than council, correct?
I'm not arguing with council. What I'm worried about is that when we accept this information, it now comes in as something that where if there is any legal this, that with the people of Mount Bridges or this group, they will be able to say, well, our ombudsman found this, and this. So if we bring this in and accept it as information and it's now allowed to be used in anything going forward, you have somebody's legal opinion that this is how it's seen.
Yeah, Councilor Brennan.
When we accept a report for information, it does not mean that council necessarily endorses or supports the finding of the report. We're merely accepting it for information. So our act of receiving it for information does not mean that we're endorsing what the ombudsman said. We're merely acknowledging that we've received this third-party report and it's in the record. That'd be my comment.
That is correct, and I would agree with Councilor Brennan. One more, Councilor Derbyshire, then we'll move on from this.
I'll just go back to where we accept minutes for the Mount Bridges Arena Board, and we then accepted the fact that we were going to move forward with what they had in their minutes. So that wasn't just an information, that was accepting what they had done. So that's not just information, that we accepted something they had made a decision on. This is no different. He's made a decision, thrown a review out there. We're now going to bring this in and it will be used against them.
Can't comment on that. Councilor Wilsey, you had one, then we'll move on from this.
This one is more technical. I'm just reading paragraph 26 on page 6, and it says that the cost that was billed to the residents did not include road construction costs. But if you look at the breakdown of the cost that we'll receive later on in the meeting from the Director of Engineering, it actually states that there is road construction costs included with that fee. So if we're going to accept that, we should also make a note that if we accept this, that there are issues that don't align with staff reports. Because this is saying that it does not include road costs, but the report we're going to receive later tonight does include road costs in that same number.
Fine. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor McGuire, then we will move on from this discussion.
Because we've discussed this, and I just wanted to bring a point from the report out so people understand what the ombudsman said. So I'll refer to paragraph 15. The Ombudsman's Office cannot provide a legal opinion on the legality of the fee under the Municipal Act 2001 and its associated regulations, nor comment on whether a different process should have been followed, specifically that under Ontario Regulation 586/06. So I think that is what Councillor Derbyshire is referencing, where the Ombudsman is saying what they can and cannot refer to. It's clear that they cannot refer to the legality of the fee and any other process that may be available under section 586/06 of the Ontario Regulation And I believe that regulation is appended over to the Municipal Act, if I read it correctly. So that's just for clarification for people.
Yep,
out there.
I
Thank you.
understand. Okay. Any other communications anyone wishes to address? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just one moment, I have to pull back onto my screen, and I'll turn my microphone back on. Thank you. Mount Bridges Agricultural Society. Is this something, I was looking further down in our agenda, so they're making an application, I believe. Is this something we need to address, or is this strictly, are we dealing with it later, or is this something that requires a motion?
Just correction, it's the Melbourne Agricultural Society.
Melbourne, pardon me, Melbourne Agricultural Society. I knew where it was, I said it wrong.
No, I'll defer to the clerk, but I believe as it came through as a correspondence, this is where we would go.
Yes, so through the chair, there is a recommendation looking for a motion. Council may certainly make a decision, but a decision on noise exemption is required.
Yep, Deputy Mayor.
If it's appropriate for this time, may I make the recommendation that we, is there a motion in here that you're looking for, Madam Clerk?
Yes, so the recommendation is that council approve the noise exemption request for the Melbourne Agricultural Society's tractor pull event on September 8th, 2023.
Thank you. May I make that, Your Worship?
You may make that motion, Deputy Mayor. Seconder, Councilor Brennan, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. Any other correspondence? Seeing none, I have one, and that is 6.2, the CN Rail resolution in support of Rail Safety Week. Given the fact that our community is bisected by many railways, both in Strathroy here and out in the rural areas, I think it's appropriate that we support this and declare September 18th to 24th as Rail Safety Week. Clerk, can I just make a motion to carry that? I'd like to make a motion that we declare September 18th and 24th as Rail Safety Week. Seek a seconder. Councillor Wilsey, all in favor? Opposed, of any? Carried. Thank you. Any other correspondence? Seeing none, thank you. We'll now move to reports from departments. We'll start with Building and Planning and Director Huff. First on tap is the request for draft plan of subdivision extension 39T, 1702 Westdale Edgewood, Mount Bridges. Recommendation first that council receive the report. Someone to make the motion, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. Carried. Director Huff, did you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Worship. To council, this is simply a report in response to a request from a developer to extend a draft plan of subdivision. It's due to expire on September 11th, and the request for the extension was received back in July. This is the Westdale subdivision in Mount Bridges. It's been subject to a number of previous extension requests. I have detailed some of the progress that has been made on this site, which includes completion of the water balance report work that had been outstanding for some time, as well as a pre-servicing agreement has been drafted and provided to them, as well as some discussions have been ongoing about dewatering strategies. So there are making progress, there are continuing challenges with the site, and so for that reason I've made a recommendation that it receive a 1-year extension, and extensions are subject to approval by the County of Middlesex, which is why in the report there's a recommendation that we inform the county of a recommendation, and ultimately the county would make a decision on whether or not to grant that extension. So leave it at that. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Before we begin, we'll get to the questions. I have a motion of the County of Middlesex be forwarded notice that the Council of Strathroy-Caradoc recommends approval for 1-year extension of the draft plan of subdivision for 39T-SC 1702. Motion to accept, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Wilsey. Now we'll move to questions. Any questions? Councillor Wilsey.
To the chair to I guess to Director Huff, could we get an update on where we are on the replanting of the trees? I know that was an issue that had to be dealt with, and also with the weed control, because I believe that was a site that had some weed control issues earlier this year as well.
Director Huff?
Thank you. To Councillor Wilsey, through you, Chair. So currently, with respect to weed control, the flea bane issue, I think, is what you're referring to, and that was largely on the Sifton site, which is located further to the west, and that's been recently cut as recently as Friday. So they've been on a scheduled maintenance now of getting a landscaper in and actually line trimming the entire property, and so it's taking quite some time, but they are managing the site that way. And then, sorry, if you could repeat your other questions for me, please.
The chair, Director Huff, it was on the tree replanting. There was trees that had to been replanted and then wasn't successful.
Thank you. Westell site was the site that removed a portion of a significant woodland, and significant woodlands are regulated by the county under the county woodlands bylaw. So the county has initiated legal proceedings in court regarding the replanting. My understanding is originally it was replanted, and then there was some grading activities that further removed the plantings. It's been subject to another site visit, and there continues to be court proceedings between the county and Westell, but that's a matter that is outside of the subdivision process. It's strictly between the developer and the county at this point in time.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Just a comment, Your Worship. I know this has been a file that has taken a great deal of time from the building department and obviously the developer in this case, and I'm very, very encouraged to see that the one-year extension is being requested, and that it's a positive report and shows that everybody is working towards an agreement that will bring this to completion, and I find that very encouraging. So I will give my congratulations to staff for getting us to this point.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a seconded motion in front of you that we accept the County of Middlesex be forwarded notice that the Council of Strathroy-Caradoc recommends approval for a one-year extension of the draft plan of subdivision for 39T-SC1702. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. We'll now move to 7.12, local service, the oversizing policy. Motion that council receive the report BBP-2023-102 for information. It's on Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Director Huff, you can speak to the report, please.
Thank you, Worship, and Chair, to the rest of the council. So this report is bringing forward a recommendation to council to consider the development of a local service / oversizing policy. And so the importance of this is, and I'll provide a little bit of background. Development Charges Act really talks about and guides municipalities in the process of identifying growth-related infrastructure and how those costs of that infrastructure are going to be borne. A portion of those costs are typically growth-related, but portions of those are also of a benefit to the existing members and existing residents, and then would be those costs would be borne by taxation typically, or grants. And the DC Act does outline that where there's a development that includes infrastructure that's identified in a development charge study. So if we've done the study and we've identified certain infrastructure as being an outcome of, or an expected outcome of growth, then it's considered a DC eligible project, and a portion of that project is paid for by the municipality under a DC reserve fund. But many projects, even if they're DC eligible projects, will include a number of components. And so when a development comes forward, it often includes infrastructure that is going to be paid for through DCs, but will often be paid for by the developer. And so the DC Act also talks about those instances where certain items are to be considered and paid for by DCs and others are considered local and would be paid for by developers. And so maybe by example, I can say that, so if a development includes a trunk sewer that's identified in a DC study, that would be a piece of infrastructure that a large portion of that is going to be paid for by DCs. But if that same development also includes local pipes in the ground, say up to 300 millimeters, then those can be considered a local service. It's not identified in the DC study. It would be something that would be paid for directly by developers. And so having a policy that dictates what's considered local is really important when a developer goes forward and does a pro forma on a development. They want to know how much of that development is going to be paid for by the municipality and how much and what type of infrastructure is paid for by the developer, what that expectation by the municipality is. And so many municipalities have that policy embedded within their development charge bylaw, but unfortunately we don't. And I'm not sure when our next DC bylaw update is going to happen. And so the thought was if we could develop an independent policy, then we can have that in place, and that would certainly help both developers and staff negotiate and have an upfront idea of how much of the cost of that development is borne by the developer versus what the municipality can expect to pay. And so a policy would include definitions of what would be considered local if it's a road, or if it's a storm pond, or if it's water or sanitary lines. So it would be very specific definitions, pipe sizes, et cetera, et cetera. And so that just helps the developer know upfront what the expectations of the municipality are when they go to develop, as well as it helps the municipality defend their position for what's versus local, what would be oversizing, what would be the cost borne by the municipality. And so we're proposing to come forward to council with this policy if council sees that there's a benefit to that. The draft would be vetted both by our development charge consultant that we've used in the past, as well as legal representation that we use when we're negotiating with developers. So it's a law firm that specializes in development charge negotiations. And so they have a lot of familiarity with these types of policies. And so we would take the feedback on a draft that we would receive from our consultants, incorporate that into the draft, and then present the draft to council for consideration in the future. I leave it with you at that point, but happy to answer any questions.
We have a motion that council directs staff to present a local service oversizing policy for council to review and consider for approval during a future council meeting. Motion, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. Any questions for Director Huff? Councillor Wilsey.
Through the chair to Director Huff, I see that there's 2 consultants and lawyers involved, and then the statement is made that this will be covered by the consultation section of the planning department's budget for 2023. Looking at the numbers, I see there's only $9,400 in that section of the budget, if I'm reading the budget right. So is there an estimate for how much, with 2 consultants and lawyers, I don't think I've ever seen a project come in under $10,000. So I'm just wondering how this fits in the budget and what the budget is for this bylaw to be written.
Director Huff.
To your worship, to Councillor Wilsey, I don't have a budget for the review, but the expectation is not that the consultant drafts the policy. We've drafted a policy. We're simply providing it to them for their review and comment. And in the past, when I have done that, those review for reports have come in at less than $4,000 to $5,000 in the past. So I think it would be fair to say that that's within the range to reach out to both those consultants for feedback on that policy.
Any other, Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. My only question comes on the term oversizing. So I understand the report and what the director said, but when we use the word oversizing, what are we defining on that? And why is the policy called oversizing? I'm just confused about that, as if I'm missing something here.
I apologize, Ms. Deputy Mayor. Did you have a question to Director Huff?
Well, yeah, but my question to you, I suspect you would direct it to her, but thank you.
Director Huff.
Thank you, Chair. To Deputy Mayor McGuire. So the term oversizing would be a situation where infrastructure exceeds the size of what's considered local, and so then is sized to provide additional service, whether it be to an adjacent development or anticipating future development within the area. And so the notion is that that oversizing would either be paid for potentially either through an agreement with the municipality or an adjacent landowner, or a front-ending agreement where the developer would pay for it up front, but the contribution would be received and paid back to the developer in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand it now.
Yep. Any other questions? Councillor Derbyshire.
Through you to council, I guess, are we good with a no budget on this thing? I know we say it's 3,000 to 4,000, but are we good with that considering there's only 9,400 left in this budget? Should we kind of nail down what it should cost, or just let her fly? That's to council.
Yeah, Councillor Brennan.
I have confidence in the director's response, and I think it falls within her managerial duty as a director to answer that she thinks there's sufficient funds, and we as council should accept that.
Any follow-up, any questions? Seeing none, we have a seconded motion that council directs staff to present a local service oversizing policy for council to review and consider for approval during a future council meeting. All in favor? Opposed, if any? 2, carried. Item 7.1, request to remove the H holding zone on file number ZBA 18-2023, 9213 Thorn Drive, Candace and Osvaldo Fiorino, BBP 2023-107. We have a motion that the rezoning application be approved. Motion to accept. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. Were there any questions on this? Seeing none, a motion to vote to accept. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Now move on to community services, 7.21. This will be Mr. Lilborn. Fire station indoor air quality testing tender award CS-2023-21. Recommendation that report CS-2023-21 titled Fire Station Indoor Air Quality Testing Tender Award be received for information. Motion to receive for information, Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Motion that council approves the awarding of the tender to EXP Services for a value of $6,537.05, including HST. Motion to accept. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Hippel. Any questions? Seeing none, a vote to accept. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Move to 7.22, 56.5 Lions Park Drive, site investigation, testing tender award CS-2023-22. Motion to receive the report for information. Motion to receive the report, Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now a motion that council award the tender for the site investigation testing at 565 Lions Park Drive to Pinchin for a value of $53,000, $486.25 plus HST. Motion to award the tender, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. Any questions? Councillor Kennis.
So just to, I guess, refresh my mind, I guess. So this is really to do the soil testing on this site to see whether it is capable of housing a future recreational facility.
Question to Councillor
Yeah,
Littleborn?
through you two.
Yeah, Director Littleborn.
Through the chair to Councillor Kennis, that is correct.
Any other questions? Councillor Wilsey.
I have a two-part question. One is on the tender. I see there's 28 holes, or 23. I can't remember if it's 23 or 28, I counted earlier. But some of them are in the parking lot, there's a lot that are through the soccer field. Does this tender also include fixing the parking lot after the holes are dug and tapping that all together? Because that amount seems low if it does. So that's the first part. And the second part is how are, on the 500,000 allocation, I know I've been working with A-Link for quite a while, we've done a number of drafts. What is the amount left in that $500,000 allocation, assuming we have approved this tender?
Question
For
for
you, Director Littleborn.
Director Littleborn.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, restoration would be included. It's just tar and chip in the parking lot, so it's not an extensive restoration. With regards to the value of what's remaining with the $500,000, including rounding this up to $60,000, plus the $33,000 that we've currently spent doing the previous work with A-Link and the other contractors, would be about $93,000 minus $500,000 would be about $403,000 remaining.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess in the form of a question is, when we're referencing 565 Lions Park Drive, is it correct that we are referencing this entire area that's outlined on page 3 of the report, where Caradoc Community Center is in the upper right portion? So we're looking at the area around the community center, but our scope is that entire area running from basically the parking lot of Caradoc Community Center right over to the back of the houses of the subdivision, and I'm not sure what subdivision that would be called, but the subdivision essentially to the west, and the soccer fields. And so we're looking at that whole piece of land, correct? And just referencing it as 565 because that's the only municipal address we have for that piece of property. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess through me to Director Littleborn.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor McGuire, you are correct. The only street address, municipal address we have for that is 565 Lions Park Drive. So it is the entire site that is being investigated.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we have a second motion. The council award the tender for the site investigation testing at 565 Lions Park Drive to Pinchin for a value of $53,486.25 plus the HST. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Director Littleborn. Engineering and Public Works, Park House Drive and Troops Road Intersection Engineering Services Award, EPW 2023-48. Have a motion to receive the report. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Motion that council, two-part, that council award the engineering services to GM Blue Plan Engineering in the amount of $74,666, excluding HST. And the council approved $10,000 for HST and contingency allowance. Motion to carry. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Pelkman. Questions, if any? Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Director Strauss, would the option of a traffic circle be considered in this portion? This intersection kind of reminds me of the one just outside of Port Stanley, or St. Thomas, where you can go off to Port Stanley. It's not a a direct 90-degree angle intersection. So I was just wondering if that's something that would be considered here.
Director Strauss.
Thank you, through the chair, Councillor Belkman. That will be considered as one of the options, yes. Just a high-level look, there may be property acquisition involved if the roundabout was the selected route. But there will be concepts provided, and then that, if there is property acquisitions, that will be at the construction phase and won't be a part of this project.
Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worship. Wondering if it would be reasonable to ask for a speed evaluation on this road during the redevelopment or as part of the redevelopment, so whether that goes to our traffic management unit or probably more through kind of the broader look of the speed from the Glendon Drive across westward to Park House Drive.
Director Strauss.
Through the chair to the deputy mayor, so as part of the whole design, we're going to be looking at all measures incorporated with this, so speed will certainly be one of the measures. We're going to look at vertical curves, horizontal curves, everything to do with that. So depending what the design comes up with, the concept, then we'll certainly use all the appropriate traffic manuals that will support changing or altering any current designs, I'll say.
Perfect. Any other questions? Councillor Wilsey.
I'm gonna bring up budget questions again. We looked at this, and on April 13th, in our finance meeting, we discussed this, and we recommended not to increase the total above 50,000. Back in 2022, this same engineering study, it came up and it was above the budget of 50,000 in 2022, and it was declined then. And then in addition to that, I know there's been a bunch of things we've been looking at with extending the borders and bringing in new lands and to mount bridges in different areas, and there's been a number of things that we've deferred until after that was done. So my question through the chair to council is, are we okay with increasing the budget from 50,000 to 85,000? And the second question is, do we want to refer this back and wait until the settlement boundary is done so that we can see if there's more property being come in? Maybe we need to look at this. Like, I don't want to do this study and then have to do it again because we're changing the boundary in 6 months. A couple of key points that I think we as council need to discuss before we approve anything.
It's a fair question, Councillor Wilsey. Did you have a follow-up, or was that the question?
The question was to council. I'm just looking to get input from council as to their feeling on both of those rather than
Any follow-up, any comment, other comments or questions? Councillor Kennis.
I have not traveled this part of the world very much in my life, but I did go there a couple of times when there were committee of adjustment issues that have come before committee of adjustment, and it is a bit of a scary intersection. And so I think as a council, I think we need to take responsibility. We need to do something about it and make it a bit of a safer intersection. So not a bit of a safer, a lot safer intersection. So that's where I stand. So I think we need to move forward.
Councillor Hippel.
Thank you, through yourself to council. Just as a comment, I had only 3, so I won't say a whole bunch. I only had 3 people reach out to me when they read this on the agenda, and they said that in their words, and they've been here, they've lived here for a very long time, in that area for a very long time, and they said it was a long time coming. I do understand and agree with what Councillor Wilsey is saying, though. I mean, it feels like, yeah, we're going backwards instead of, we're not really doing what we were thinking we were doing, or what we should be doing monetarily. But at the same time, I mean, if 3 people reached out, I didn't have any complaints. I didn't have anyone say, oh my God, why are they doing this? It's just more of something that they've been waiting for. So I don't know. I feel like we do push a lot of things off in that area. I guess I would like to see it done. I mean, but I don't know. That's just my comments, and I contradicted myself twice there. But anyways, that's my comment.
Any other, we'll go with Councillor Derbyshire, then Councillor Brand. Councillor Derbyshire?
So I guess I would have a question and a comment. If you drive that road from Adelaide to Glendon, it is terrible at best. There's no getting around it. It's too narrow. It's up and down. The sides are falling out. there's a huge dip just before this house as we come up to this intersection. We can spend $80,000 to fix this intersection. Maybe we should be asking, when are we gonna redo this whole road? And do we just kick this 80,000 out and do a reconstruction of Park House or something along those lines? If the West Dell thing does come in, obviously that will increase construction or traffic down that road. So my question then would be to, through you, Chair, to Director Strauss, is there any plans in the works? Is Park House Drive on a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year list of roads we are going to possibly upgrade?
Director Strauss?
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, staff are working on a 10-year capital program, and the design of Park House Drive coming forward is identified in the 10-year, but the reconstruction is likely just outside of that 10-year window.
Any other questions? I apologize. Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Well, given the answer we just received from Director Strauss, we're talking about a difference of about $30,000 or $35,000 here between the original 50,000 idea and 85. And you know, as far as rural traffic safety goes, and making sure that individuals in the rural area of this municipality see that we as a council value it, it's a bit of a cliche, but I don't want the perfect to become the enemy of the good. I'd rather see the work go ahead at a few extra dollars if it's going to save some lives. So when it comes down to dollars versus lives, and we're talking $35,000, I just assume proceed, and that's my position.
Thank you. One final one, Councillor Wilsey.
Yeah, I actually live at this intersection. When I drink coffee, I sit out and I watch that. I've seen this intersection. I'm not saying it's a safe one. It is definitely, there's a lot of near misses there almost every day. But what we have to look at is we were tight on our budget. We're spending $35,000, and this is only for design. This is still going to be 2 or 3 years out before we do anything. And if we wait for construction and then we change the settlement boundary and we have to do it again, what's that going to change? And I just don't want this, with all the changes that we have going on and how busy Park House is getting and all the changes that are coming, including request speed limit changes. I've had residents reach out to me about them as well. That's already with the traffic committee. With all those things coming up, I just see too many things coming up to start this when the design, by the time it's done, is probably going to have to be redone because we've got new subdivisions or a settlement boundary changed. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Any other? Councillor Derbyshire, then we'll move on to the vote.
Yeah, and I would only have one more question. As we're drawing out of the engineering reserve funds, the 34,000, do we have that available to draw out of, and does that still leave us okay in that department? That would be through you to
go to Mr. Dakin.
I'm going to, but I want to get his right title. Financial services. So,
Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Derbyshire, yes, we do have the funds within that reserve to cover this. Just like anything, once you start reserve fund depletion, it is an opportunity cost. So obviously, that's $35,000 you don't have for something else down the road, but there is funds available beyond that as well, though.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, we'll call for the vote. The council award engineering services to GM Blue Plan Engineering in the amount of $74,660, excluding HST, and the council approved $10,000 for HST and contingency allowance. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Move to 7.32, the Adelaide Road Sewer Extension. Engineering Services Award, EPW 2023-49. A motion that council receive report, EPW 2023-49. Adelaide Road Sewer Extension, the Engineering Services Award. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. I have a motion that council award the engineering services to associates, engineers, and architects in the amount of $145,546, excluding HST. The council approved $15,000 for HST and contingency allowance. Motion to accept, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Brennan. Questions, if any, for Director Strauss? Councillor Derbyshire.
I'll get us going here. Through you to Councillor Strauss, or Director Strauss. Geez, you're not a councillor. Well, some days you probably want to switch seats. And let you ask the tough questions. I guess, I know we're just looking to award this as an engineering service, but before we get too far down the road, and when we get to our cost breakdown of all this, I know we're doing this somewhat to accommodate a development, which I don't know if the development needs to go to Falconbridge Road. So I guess my question there is, one of my questions is, does the developer just stop where he needs to go, and then the rest of the bill is paid by the residents? And I know we already have a bill proposed, like a bylaw that sets it at a certain cost, but just when I look at the stretch, I realize that is the ideal place to end up is Falconbridge, but do we need to be going that far to accommodate the development, I guess would be my question.
Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to Councillor Derbyshire, we can shorten the design scope to just actually bring the services in. There is 2 developments there. So there is one that kind of sneaks in behind the Public Works yard on the east. I'll call it the east, even though on the picture that you see in front of you, it looks like it's the north. And then they're just down a little further past 2 more parcels on the south or west side. It enters into another development, so we can look to shorten the design project by, I would estimate that being close to 200 meters. However, then you would just be left with a segment of road that isn't an urban standard. So the idea behind this project is to have the services stubbed to those properties and then have the surface works done to Falconbridge upgraded.
Any other questions, follow up, any other questions? Councillor Derbyshire is waiting.
I'm sorry. I get it. It's just probably the one I want to talk about is farther down, which would then help kind of work into all of these. But when I look at this, it just seems like it's a pretty big undertaking for people that, like, I just look at the people along that road and I'm not too sure if they need it. I don't even know if they're actually aware that this project has started, whether we should be like, what kind of time frame? Let's make sure we cover whatever we're supposed to be doing, I guess. I don't want to end up with where people are like, we had no idea what's coming and this and that. Like, if we know we're gonna do this project down to here and we approve that, then I think we should notify the people as soon as possible, especially given the fact that it is a significant amount of money that they are responsible for this portion of of this road. So that's just when I ask where the developers are getting off of the train, you know, it seems like they're stopping fairly early in the getting off process. So that either leaves taxpayers or homeowners responsible for the rest of it. More comment.
Nope. Any other questions? Director Strauss, through me to you. What would the time frame be for completion of this work? Is it 3-5 years? But I missed that in the report. So what's the time frame for completion if they were to go ahead?
Through the chair to the chair, this is actually just for the design. This project, if it were to be awarded, we're aiming for a September of 2024 completion. That's just for the design portion. So the construction portion would be another report and budget to council. And then I just wanted to clarify that to residents, if this was to be awarded, then we would initiate the public engagement, have letters sent out to all the affected owners, but we certainly wouldn't do that before a project was going ahead.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. Through yourself, it's just a comment. So I will, Director Strauss has been very patient with me because I had been sending him emails, not recently, but over the last 2 or 3 years about this, asking when is it coming, and even though I knew the answer, I'd still send the emails, so when is it coming, because those are the emails I'm getting. So I'm happy that this is in the works. It's always scary knowing that the monetary side of it will be fairly pricey, but at this point it's just started. So I'm happy, and I know there's a lot of residents down that road that have been waiting and waiting and waiting. So that's just my comment.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we have a seconded motion in front of us. Have a vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. 7.33, the sanitary private drain connection charge information. Recommendation that council receive report EPW 2023-50 for information. Motion to receive the report. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Belkman. Any questions? Deputy Mayor McGuire.
Thank you, Your Worships. I suspect you would direct this to Director Strauss, and I did have a brief conversation with him. If I can refer you over to page 3 of the report, probably about the 3rd paragraph down on the upper portion of the page, it says, in the middle there, these methods are described in detail in the following subsections. And under I, about the middle of that paragraph, property owners have the right to petition either for or against a proposed work. You follow me? Okay, thank you. So in regards to the Queen Street Mount Bridges development, was that done?
Director Strauss.
Through the chair to Deputy Mayor McGuire. So the actual process we used was the II method, as opposed to the I method. Sorry, I'm referring to the brackets. So to answer your question, no, that method was not chosen. It was the latter of the 2 methods that are shown within the report. So it was a development-driven project that initiated this.
Yep, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Director. So I appreciate that very much. May I just follow up and say, under the what did you just refer to it as? It was done under II. So under the II provisions, do the property owners have the right to petition either for or against a proposed work?
Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor. So because this project came to council and was approved by the council, at that point they could petition against, however that would have to come back to council because the project was awarded.
Yep.
Thank you.
Follow up, any other questions? We'll go with Councillor Wilsey. You guys arm wrestle over it.
I was just gonna add, and I asked this question a little bit earlier. I see in the ombudsman report it says that they spoke to staff and that roads were not included. And this question is for you, Chair, to Director Strauss. And looking at it, when I'm reading this, and I'm looking on page 2, and it says that it includes restoration of the road, sidewalk, boulevard. So I just, in my mind, I'm just trying to match this report saying that roads are included to the ombudsman's report where it says they spoke to staff and roads are not included in that fee. So I just, those 2 documents don't line up. And then plus when Director Strauss had spoken to us earlier, he also said that roads were not included in that 17.5 fee that's now been bumped up. So I'm trying to see why some explanations roads are included and other ones they're not. I don't understand the difference.
Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wilsey. So I think the important word in there is restoration. So if we were to do if a developer was to come in, and I guess I could just use Queen Street as an example. If they were to come forward, run sanitary sewers down Queen Street, and we did not want to improve Queen Street to an urban standard, but we did provide PVCs to these residents, the cost to restore the asphalt that the developer only had to install the main line for would be additional and above that cost. This list of items that we've included is not really anything specific to the 17.5. It just covers, that's just everything that a contractor could or may have to do once they actually go and install a private drain connection. So if we were not to charge this private drain connection charge, we would not be providing the sanitary stubs to those properties. Therefore, the contractor would have a much less construction fee, as they would only be doing a linear line of sanitary sewer and then restoring the road to the condition it was existing.
Any Councillor Derbyshire?
I guess that's probably where my question was going to fall in. So if they're ripping up the road and running a straight line anyways, you're telling me that it's $17,500 to shove the stub out to their property? Because what you said was they're gonna bust up the concrete, they're gonna run the main line anyways. So why are we penalizing taxpayers? I know you're gonna say it's an upgrade. A lot of them have sewers. Some obviously want it down that road. Most of them didn't need it, didn't want it. So it feels to me like we're charging them for a developer or development going down their road. So I guess that's when I looked into what a stub cost, and the amount of time is anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000. So that doesn't include putting the asphalt back down and all this other stuff, which was going to be done anyways, would be my point to this. The developer's gonna pay, $13,500. I guess that would be my question to you, is why, if it was development driven, are we making these people pay for this? Like $17,500 is a large chunk of change for anyone to eat up. It's now gonna be $18,800. So, I realize maybe we can't afford it as a municipality, but then maybe we have to tell the developer, I'm sorry, this is on your dime, and if you want to do it, here's what it is. And maybe that doesn't help development, but we can't be killing the people that are already here. So that would be my question as to why we are not just charging people for the stub and the time to put the stub over.
I'm gonna ask Director Strauss to answer that question. You know what, Councillor Derbyshire, I've had the same question since last summer. I'm looking at the cost of stubs, and I think that today, and in reading both reports, because I had the same question. If you're ripping up the road and you're running the main line down the road, you're gonna rip it up anyways. But I believe that I got a satisfactory answer from Director Strauss, so tee it up if you could explain it, Director Strauss, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Through the mayor, and I'll do this one to council, I guess. When you go to do a project and a developer needs, let's just say they need a sanitary sewer only, they're only digging that trench that they need, that mainline sewer. The cost of construction, the time it takes, it will be substantially less. And really the only true factor to tell what that cost is per private drain connection is if you did tender a project to only service the development with no private drain connections, and then you really tendered another project, the same project basically, with private drain connections and all that restoration fee. I think you're going to notice there's a substantial difference. In talking to most contractors, they would love if they just had to put a main line down the center. They didn't have to cross over or under any utilities. They usually have to bring in other crews. So that's really where this fee comes into play. It's a substantial burden on the municipality and the existing ratepayers if we're installing these to property line with no benefit to anybody but those residents, really, that receive that to their property line. And that's why, to answer that ultimate question of where did the fee come from, it was elected by council.
Yeah, yep, Councilor Derbyshire.
I understand we elected it. In saying that, we also, as we bring on more people paying onto this sewer fund, we had a reserve fund, or have a reserve fund of 16 or 12 million dollars in sewer reserve funds. So if we bring more people into this pot paying into the sewer fund, right, we will build up the reserves. It should somehow, we should look at it from that point as opposed to this initial road going down is such a pain in the arse that they don't want to deal with it. That's not my problem. You want your development. This is the pain in the ass part. These people are only going to pay for the stub and the labor, because they're going to be sewer customers for the next 100 years, where we're going to increase their sewer rates to make up for what we need to do elsewhere. Like it's hard to hit somebody real hard out of the gate and then say, and your rates are going up every year because we got to keep paying for this infrastructure. Like, you know, it's like I paid a damn lot to get it. So I get it. We approved it. I don't feel like it's right. That's my opinion. I don't feel like we're doing a great service to the people of this municipality. And a lot of these construction things, and I'm not trying to go Ward 1, Ward 2, but it's going to happen in Mount Bridges. This is where this charge is going to apply to a lot of people. You know, we don't apply it when we rip up a road. We don't say it's 17.5 for you to get your stubs and stuff again, because we've already put a sewer, so we're just replacing it. Like, we don't charge the people here that are having it replaced this 17.5. Now, I'm not saying we do that. God, people will be hanging me, but I'm trying to make a point that we're not, because it's a new connection, they're gonna get hit pretty hard.
Yeah, Councilor Brennan, then I'll make a final point.
Through the chair to Director Strauss, is it not true that the $17,500 charge would apply equally to all members of the municipality in similar circumstances that where this is happening, whether they are in Ward 1 or Ward 2?
Yep, Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to Councilor Brennan, yes, that's factual, yes. It's all Strathroy-Caradoc.
Thank you.
I'd like to rebut that.
Yep.
Strathroy, how much sewers are in Strathroy? Percentage of Strathroy that has sewers, percentage of Mount Bridges that has sewers. Existing. This is my point. Strathroy, most of it has existing sewers, right? Can we agree to that?
Who's he addressing?
Yeah.
I'll address anybody who will answer.
Yeah.
Going through the chair.
No, but I think understood, but all we're doing here is receiving this report for information, so that's all we're doing with this one. We're just receiving this report. Deputy Mayor.
Just for comparison purposes, Your Worship, Queen Street in Strathroy is currently being redeveloped. My understanding is that they had a sewer line, and that most of them, if not all of them, were attached to that sewer line. If that is correct, when we are currently redeveloping Queen Street in Strathroy, are those residents getting new services put in? Or just the existing ones there, question one. And if they are getting new services put in, does the private drain connection fee apply? Or is it just a replacement of the existing? So I guess it's two-part.
Yeah. I'll defer. I have an answer. I'll defer to Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor. So the residents on Queen Street in Strathroy, yes, they are getting new infrastructure down the road, including private drain connections. However, some have existing private drain connections that will be replaced. We have came across some that do not have private drain connections, and they are on septic. So they will be receiving the fee.
So just, I just want to be clear on that. So if you're replacing one that's existing, there is no private drain connection fee, i.e. the 17.5. For the ones you found that have septic tanks, and they're now going to be hooked up with a private drain connection or the stub, they would be applied the $17,500 fee, correct? Thank you.
Yep. Director Strauss.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, that is correct. The existing Queen Street residents who have been paying user fees for quite some years, I don't know, maybe you can correct me on when, Bill, but they have been paying into this infrastructure charge for so long that, yes, we are not charging the existing users who receive private drain connections that 17.5 fee, only the ones that are receiving a new benefit to their property.
Okay. All right, I think we're done with that question. So we have a seconded motion. Council received report EPW-2023-50 for information. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Move to 7.4, fire services. Looks like Deputy Chief Beasley's here tonight if you're going to speak to these. Purchase of a second set of PPE-fire-2023-07. First motion is to receive the report. Motion to receive the report. Councilor Kennis, seconded by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Motion that council approve the purchase of a second set of personal protective equipment, PPE, for every member of the department. The purchase cost to be included in the 2024 budget, as well as redirection of 2023 capital monies. Motion to approve, Councilor Hippel, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. Questions? Any? Okay, we'll start with Councilor Derbyshire, Deputy Chief. Councilor Derbyshire.
I guess my question would be is where, through you to, I'm going to say Deputy Chief Beasley, where are we keeping these second set of gears so that they remain safe? I'm going to say safe. I don't know if that's the right word, but not contaminated. Let's put it that way.
Deputy Chief.
Through the chair to Councillor, I'm sorry, I'm having a dub share. The gear will be sealed in bags and kept completely sealed while it's not in use, and so it won't be affected by the ambient air in the station and the station and the gear that's already in use.
Did I see your hand up, Councilor Kennis?
Yeah, just wondering what sort of the lifespan on these types of apparatus are, and whether they're a one-size-fits-all type of suit.
Through the chair to Councillor Kennis, it's a 10-year lifespan. The gear has got a 10-year lifespan, and then it's no longer fit for service, and then it would have to be replaced at that time.
Any other? Councillor Wilsey.
It references in the report, the Director of Finance is going to speak to the financial implications and where the monies are redirected from different capital funds. I'd like to get that explanation, please.
Yep. Director Dakin.
Through you, the chair, to Councilor Wilsey. So there was money set aside in the 22 budget for looking at the plans for the Station 1 replacement here in Strathroy, as well as money set aside for looking at possible relocation of stations 2 and 3. That money, so far the money that has been spent out of that 600,000 is only for the preliminary work that's been done with Station 1. So there is approximately about 300,000 still available of the 600 to be moved towards this, but we would allocate exactly how much money as part of the 24 budget.
Yep. Councilor Wilsey.
As a follow-up to that, through the chair to Director Dakin, will we be stopping development on the studies of the relocation of the other ones now that those funds are used up? Or I know we've already planned on going ahead with Station 1 for next fiscal year. Are we stopping the plans to do development and move Station 2 and 3 at the moment now because we're using those funds up here? Or what's the plan there?
Through the chair to Council Wilsey, I guess that would be a decision of council. What we're recommending is that the use of those funds be put towards this gear at this point. So whether we stop the process or reallocate other funds or what, that would be up to council.
Councillor Hippel, was your hand up?
Yeah, it is, but he was first.
Sorry. Councillor Pelkman, I do apologize.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can, through you to Director Dakin, would we be looking at these assets similar to like we would the fleet reserve, in that, you know, we'll be making this purchase in this calendar year, but then start to build the reserve to repurchase the equipment, that it's obviously necessary equipment. So I would hope that we would plan for replacing it in the life cycle so it doesn't become a political discussion again.
Good question, thank you. Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Pelkman, that is correct. So what we would do is put in a replacement plan to start replacing number of bunker gear outfits each year, as opposed to a lock and stock buyout of 80 units at one time. So yeah, there would be a replacement program put together that would be part of the capital budget going forward.
Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. This is just a comment through yourself. This is great. We all know that as our community grows, and it is growing, and there's lots of things going on, the more homes, the more infrastructure, the health and safety of our firefighters it's necessary, and to have the two sets of equipment is very important, because as we all know, anytime I'm at any of the fire halls, I mean, they're either getting back from 1, 2, or possibly 3 fires. And knowing that right at this moment they only have 1 set, I think this is a great bonus for the health and safety of our men and women in the Strathroy-Caradoc Fire Department.
Thanks. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion in front of us. The council approve the purchase of a second set of personal protective equipment for every member of the department. The purchase cost will be included in the 2024 budget, as well as redirection of 2023 capital monies. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to reports from boards and committees. A recommendation that reports, again, the same as correspondence, we'll accept them for information. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the other part. I apologize. So we'll turn this over to the Chief Administrative Officer. We had dealt with your position, so the Cemetery Assistant report that HR 2023-13 Cemetery Assistant we received for information. I'll view where Director Payne. Director Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. Exciting report tonight before you. A bit of background on the report. In April, as Council's aware, we began recruiting for the CAO position. And at the same time, later in June of 2023, we began recruiting for the Cemetery Assistant position that was just recently added through Director Lilborn's report to Council. Happy to announce before you this evening our new CAO, Tricia McKibben, so welcome. Background, as Council is aware, we did several interviews, Council as well interviewed candidates, and Ms. McKibben joins us from Township of Minden Hills, so nothing that I haven't said before, but welcome, Tricia. Moving on to Cemetery Assistant, Council may be aware, we did have a report from Director Lilborn coming out of the budget of 2023, and a report came back to Council, and Council did approve the hiring of a Cemetery Assistant position. So at that same time, we did do a series of interviews, and Mr. William Maltby was selected and awarded the position, local resident of Strathroy. Mr. Maltby was cemetery assistant in a summer capacity for the last 2 summers at Strathroy-Caradoc. So we welcome him to the team. Both Mr. Maltby and Mr. McKibben started August 21st. No implications on budget, all budgeted, so happy to answer any questions.
Before we ask questions, we should have a motion to receive the report. You know, motion to receive report HR 2023-13, hiring report, chief administrative officer, and cemetery assistant be received for information. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now we'll move on to reports from boards and committees. So recommendation that the reports from boards and committees be received for information. There are 5 in front of you. Someone make a motion to receive them. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Did anyone have any specific questions on any of the reports? I had one, and it's to do with the Blue Water Recycling Association, and I'll apologize to Councillor Kennis and Councillor Wilsey. You had a question, I believe, Councillor Kennis, that came out of AMO regarding Blue Water Recycling. I believe, Councillor Wilsey, you're a representative on Blue Water Recycling. So
yeah, I guess just really it was, I know some municipalities have already switched their recycling to, I guess by 2026, I think we have to all switch to where the manufacturers take responsibility for the collection costs, and I just wondered where Blue Water was at when it came to that, and whether they would actually be a provider of recycling services in the future, I guess, because, yeah, just wondering how that all was going to work, whether we're looking at a green bin and all those types of things. So, yeah.
Councillor Wilsey.
Yeah, I can speak to that in a bit. Right now, there's some municipalities that have already switched over. Strathroy-Caradoc is scheduled to switch over in April of 2024, so we have about 8 months left. What's happened is the producers who are responsible for everything are tendering out the services and the construction. Blue Water has been tendering to do a number of the collection. However, those bids, they've been focusing on the ones that have been funded already. We haven't got final answers back on whether Blue Water will be selected to continue our collection. Until we get that information back, it's not clear on if Blue Water will be continuing to pick up our recycling. Depending on how many you are aware, Blue Water is actually owned by the municipality. It's owned by the municipality, so everyone who gets their garbage collection is a partial owner of Blue Water, which is why we've got a member on the board. So with that being said, Blue Water at present will still continue doing our garbage. If for some reason they don't get the contract for the recyclables, our cost for the garbage may go up, even though we don't have to pay for it, so we don't know what's going to happen. If Blue Water does continue to collect the recyclables, there is a plan that they've already designed where we could add organic and keep our cost approximately the same. But until we know if Blue Water gets the tender to continue doing the recyclables, we don't know if that's going to be a viable option. So as of yet, we're waiting for those tenders to come out, which should come out in the next few months. And once that's done, I'm sure they've already told me they've been in contact with staff, and they're waiting for the tender process to work out before we know what's going forward.
Just that, I'm going to ask a question too. So knowing that I'm big on communication, you ask that staff keep us well informed, because we will, if something happens that's a change to our citizens, they'll most certainly be looking at us as a municipality to communicate to us and keep us well and staff well informed. Okay, Councillor?
Yeah, I've asked that, and my direction from that has been the staff of Blue Water is in direct communication with our staff.
Are they? Okay.
And it's not going through the board, that's going to be directly through staff to staff, so that's going to be a staff report that we should be expecting, not council or board.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. Any other questions on any of the reports? Councillor Kennedy.
Maybe just to follow on this one, maybe you could mention as well that my understanding is that commercial businesses will no longer fall under the umbrella of recycling collections that we're accustomed to, and that they'll be responsible for arranging their own pickups in the future. Is that correct? So.
Yes, that is correct. Also, with that, municipal buildings and institutions such as schools and churches and retirement homes are also not included in the collection. It's only residences. So anything that's not a major residence outside of an apartment building. And in an apartment building, if there's a commercial area inside that apartment building where they've got a ground floor store, that store will not get recyclable collection from the producer pay system, only the residences and above floor. Yes, there is gonna be something that's gonna come up, and they're still trying to work that out with the province over how that's going to work.
Okay. One more.
So just follow up on that, so that there'll have to be considerable communication done with commercial generators of recyclable material to get them prepared for this as well, so.
Yep, good conversation, thank you. Any other on any of the reports? Seeing none, we have a second motion that the reports.
Oh, no, sorry.
Jumping the gun,
I'm
Deputy
jumping
Mayor?
the gun.
Lots of time. Reports from boards and committees be received for information. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now we move on to consideration of bylaws. Clerk.
So bylaw 56, number 23, stems from agenda item 5.1, the drainage matter. So bylaw 5623, a bylaw to provide for the construction of the Funk South Drain 2023, serving parts of lots 10 to 11, concession 7 in the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc in the county of Middlesex. We're looking for first and second reading only for bylaw 5623.
A motion that the bylaw receive first and second reading. Councillor Wilsey, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 6023 relates to item 7.1.3 on council's agenda, the planning matter to remove a holding symbol. So bylaw 6023 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 4308, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the municipality regarding the property municipally known as 6213 Thorn Drive. We're looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
A motion that bylaw 6023 receive first, second, and third and final reading. Deputy Mayor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Peltman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 6123 relates to public meeting this evening. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 4308, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc regarding the property municipally known as 7620 Walker's Drive. We're looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
A motion that bylaw 61-23 receive first, second, and third and final reading. Councillor Hippel, seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 6223 to appoint a chief administrative officer was addressed by council earlier this evening. So we move to bylaw 6323, which is a bylaw to confirm the designated signing authorities for the municipality's bank accounts and legal documents. So that update is to include our new chief administrative officer as a signing authority. We're looking for first, second, and third and final reading of bylaw 6323.
Bylaw 6323 receive first, second, and third and final reading. Motion, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Wilsey. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
And the final bylaw this evening is bylaw number 6523 to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. We're looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
A motion that bylaw 65-23 receive first, second, and third and final reading. Someone to bring the motion. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Peltman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. County Council report. Deputy Mayor, there's a couple on there that you're part of, both the County Council and the Middlesex London Paramedic.
Yes,
Service.
if I may just take a couple of minutes this evening, which I generally don't do, but there's a couple of important reports that I think I'd like to bring attention to. So the first one is the Middlesex London Paramedic Service, and there is a PowerPoint in there. I'm not sure if you want to bring it up, or I can just refer to it. An excellent report. Of course, you will recall during budget time, the county portion of our budget was increased a lot, over 8%, and what drove a great deal of that was the Middlesex London Paramedic Service budget, which increased I believe slightly over 18%. So some significant increases. So this report will help understand what the Middlesex London Paramedic Service does. So on page 6, or PowerPoint 6, it shows just how many calls are coming in. On a daily basis, our paramedics are doing 299 calls per day. Amazingly, they're going to 35 cardiac arrest saves and 16 babies being delivered per day in London, Middlesex. So this does include the City of London because the paramedic service is City of London and all of the county. But amazingly, we have 16 babies being delivered by paramedics. So I find that interesting. All of this is being staffed by about 422 total staff members, about 362 of which are paramedics, both part-time and full-time members. In there, you'll also see a number of other stats coming up. Some of note is they drive about 2.3 million kilometers a year in total. In total calls, they're responding to almost 110,000 calls in 2022. And of course, their budget increased from 22 to 23 by just over 18%. Amazingly, their calls for service from 2020 to 2022 have increased just under 17%. And the method by which the public are using our paramedic service has changed dramatically, much of that being driven by COVID. And of course, one of the things with the paramedic service, and I do sit on that authority board, when the phone rings and somebody asks for a paramedic or an ambulance, as they generally will say, you must respond. So a lot of the money that's required to operate LMSP is non-discretionary because we have to send somebody out there. So how do we go about trying to address this? At the authority board and with Chief Neil Roberts and the CAO of the corporation, which currently Bill Rayburn is providing that duties. They're coming up with a lot of initiatives. We're trying to get enhanced dispatch, where dispatching, instead of being done at the provincial level, it'll be done more locally. That should help steer where we need paramedics and ambulances attending. We're also looking at the advanced care paramedic program, which would get a solo, probably, I think they call it a level 4 paramedic, which these paramedics can do an incredible amount of work, but they would attend in an SUV for those highly critical urgent cases, let's say a heart attack or a stroke where time is of the essence. They could get there quick, they can provide the care that's required, and then if transportation to a hospital is required, that ambulance will follow up, do the transport, and that releases this highly skilled individual to reattend back out in the community. Just for Strathroy-Caradoc alone, there are some stats in there. They are doing about 1,000 Code 3 calls, which are license iron calls, and about 1,800 Code 4 calls, which are life-threatening calls. They're doing about 1,000 Code 3, 1,800 Code 4 a year, just in our community, which would equate about 5 times a day, they're going to life-threatening calls in our community and responding to about another 3 calls a day, lights and sirens. So about 8 times a day in our community alone, our paramedics are responding to urgent care, critical type situations, which I find shocking, scary, but incredible that these people are on the road and providing that service. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and to the attention of the public. On the county report from August 15th, which I zoomed in on, which was good, because not too long into the meeting, the mayor had a bat visit him, which emptied the council chambers because of the rabies concern, and they couldn't get the bat out of there because I don't know where you would ever get the bat through. There'd be 10 doors to get out before it'd ever get outside. So anyways, they did adjourn, and that will all be picked up next Tuesday when we convene back in those council chambers. So lots of work going on at the county. It's very, very busy. There is a MLPS report inside of that county report also, and you'll see a bunch of initiatives in there, including some new stations, 60 new paramedics, and a new advanced care paramedics program coming online, all which should give better service to Middlesex County and the City of London for your paramedics. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Yes, you missed the excitement. Any questions for the Deputy Mayor? Seeing none, we'll move to inquiries and comments. So we'll start with Councillor Kennis if you have any inquiries or comments.
Just a quick one tonight. Through an interesting route from this position, I served on the Board of Governors of the Western Fair, and the Western Fair opens on Friday for the next 10 days, and we hope to see tons of people from Strathroy and Mount Bridges and all of Caradoc Township enjoying the Western Fair this year.
Thank you. Councillor Wilsey.
I have a couple. One is just an update, a question to the Director of Finance. When we talked about the budget back in July, we had talked about getting an updated report on the reserve accounts and how much was allocated and unallocated. It's a two-part question. The first part is, will that come ahead of the next budget update, which we should see at the end of Q3, which I'm expecting will be October, or will we see that earlier? And the next part is, will the budget for Q3 and that update include different funds that have been redirected and allocated, and see what's left in the budget as far as like the fire hall design funds we just moved?
Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Wellesley. So that report will be part of the Q3. So the reserve fund will be part of the Q3 report brought forward. As far as allocation, reallocation, we can clearly show that. Obviously, like the one that we discussed tonight with the fire equipment, turnout gear, obviously will be part of that 24. So we can show it as a pending, or however council would choose to see that. Until that budget's passed, obviously that money would still be there.
And then as my second one, being we moved the money from the fire hall redesign, are we going to now rediscuss what our plans are for Mount Bridges and Melbourne fire halls, as we've just moved that money to fire apparatus away from fire hall design and relocation? And I guess I think wonder if we should add that to the agenda to discuss at a future meeting now that we've moved the money and spent it.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Councillor Derbyshire.
All right, I did have two. One was about the tractor pull in Melbourne on Friday night and the dance party after. So if anybody's looking for a little bit of fun, should be interesting. All I can say about that. The other thing is, I wondered, since this is such a great show we put on every Monday, every other Monday, I was wondering when we're taking it on the road and whether we can nail down some dates to have possibly 2 shows in Mount Bridges and 2 shows in Melbourne. I don't know where that inquiry goes, but I think we have so much fun here, maybe we should show the rest of the community what it's like.
No, and as mayor, I will wholeheartedly agree, and I think we can talk to the new CAO, we can make arrangements to take this show on the road, because you're right, people do deserve to see the fun that we're having here. Councillor Brennan.
Although I'm sure we're going to get a wonderful report on the pool and how successful a season they had this year, I just had to comment on how well it seemed to go. I was doing a lot of swimming there this summer, as I usually do, but I've never seen the pool so well utilized as I have before this summer, and I guess that has something to do with the COVID spell we just went through. But the amount of enthusiasm and hard work I saw from the staff, intergenerational mixing of aquafit people with kids coming in for day camp and public swim and swim lessons. It was really a very vibrant place to be this summer, and I just want to compliment the staff on the great job they did, and I look forward to seeing the statistics, which no doubt will be compiled and brought to us at another date. So that's just compliments to the people working at the pool and the rec department.
Thank you. I'm sure we all echo those sentiments. Councillor Peltman.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the volunteers that stepped up for all the community events that have happened over the summer. You know, we all want stuff to do and things to enjoy ourselves, but that doesn't happen without a lot of people putting in a lot of work. And I also know that there's a lot of coordination between our own staff and volunteers of the events that have happened over the summer. And just want to know for those staff that end up working on the Saturdays and the evenings that it's greatly appreciated, and it's great to see all the residents of our community out with smiles on their faces, and that doesn't happen with a lot of work. So I'd just like to thank those people that are responsible for that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. I have two things. First one is, well, I mean, we all know tomorrow is Wednesday, but actually it's the first day back to school. So exciting for most, a little scary for some, and just a whole new, brand new thing, because, I mean, kids are pumped to go, they're running around. I mean, the younger ones, obviously, the older ones are, you know, walking really slow because they probably don't want to go to school tomorrow. But as I'm saying this, I'm considering, you know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking people in their cars. I'm thinking about speeding. I'm thinking about stopping. I'm thinking about all the things that everyone has going on in their head and how busy they are. We've got kids on the road. Tomorrow's the first day of school. Be careful, slow down, keep your eyes out for the buses. I mean, this is extremely important. The weather has been hot. Everyone is probably still a little bit in summer mode, but we need to slow the heck down, and we need to keep an eye out for all our kiddos. It's a very important thing. And I am very excited because you all know I love school. So the second thing is a question, and I don't know who this goes to, so I'm going to throw it out there because I had a resident, actually he is a realtor, and he asked me and I couldn't answer it, and I talked to a couple of people, but what do we do with signs? So if you've got sold signs, or you've got, I'm gonna call them pointer signs, when it's saying, hey, go down that road because there's a house for sale. When those have been sitting out there for a really long time and the house has been sold, and they don't take the signs down, and I have residents asking me, what do I do with these signs? And no one comes and picks them up. Is there something we do? Is there something, what do I do? I didn't know how to answer.
No, and I did not know you were going to ask that question. You will vouch for that because I'm looking at Councillor Huff. I've had people approach me about the signs too, but in a different aspect. The fact that mainly you see it in the urban areas, the plethora of those signs on the corner, and they're getting to be unsightly. So I don't know if, I don't have the solution, but I have been approached by a number of people, myself. And I wonder if it's appropriate if we ask, I guess it would be the building and planning department, if they prepare just a report on what's possible, because we could be talking about some sort of I hate bylaws, but there has to be something, because I even noticed in my walk this morning, in one corner, there had to be 8 signs, and they're starting to get a little bit out of hand, so I'll let Director Huff jump in.
Thank you, Worship. To Councillor Hippel and to Council generally, so we don't have a sign bylaw. And where they're located on private property, it's difficult to regulate. We do have some restrictions in our zoning bylaw that ensures that signs are placed in a location that would not impede the sight lines on an intersection. So those we can do something about, but where it's on private property, that does be a challenge to regulate without a sign bylaw. If it's on a county road allowance, then it's subject to county sign bylaw. So I know there's been some concerns about those on Adelaide Road, but those are actually just on private property. So if council is interested, certainly we can bring forward a draft version of a sign bylaw for consideration to potentially address some of those concerns. Staff are certainly willing to work on that, but that would require council direction on that, in that respect. Thank you.
Councillor Hippel, I'm willing to make a motion just to have receive a report, because I've had a number of people, so. And so I know I can make a motion, I'll make a motion to ask that staff prepare a report on what's possible on some kind of a sign bylaw. So, get a seconder, Councillor Pammer, all in favor. Did you have a question? I apologize.
Just to support that, there was a new listing by an out-of-town realtor on Abigail last week, and there were that realtor put up 4 signs at the corner.
Yes.
And so, you know, that's too much, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, all in favor, opposed if any, carried, thank you.
Okay, I'm done.
Councillor Pammer.
Just to follow up to Councillor Hippel's comments about back to school tomorrow, over the summer, we did approve some changes on speed limits and school zones over the summer, particularly around Mary Wright and St. Vincent de Paul, and also our late OLI downtown. So just a reminder to people that the speed zones have changed around those school areas, so take note, slow down, and don't get caught. Behave.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I guess I have 2 items. For those in the community that are concerned about the speed bumps up on Darcy, yes, they are there to help slow traffic down, and it has been reduced to a 40-kilometer-an-hour zone. And of course, you have a school up on the corner of Middlesex and Darcy. But more than that, those are there because we want to keep the majority of our north-south traffic in the north end out on Head Street, as opposed to cutting through your neighborhood in Darcy Drive. So it might be a bit of an annoyance for people living up in there, but it really is to keep traffic out onto Head Street, which is our primary traffic corridor in Strathroy. Other than that, had a great experience on Saturday. I finally made it out to the market and spent the morning with Fire Chief Brent Smith. It was good to get to know him more on a personal basis than just meeting him here in council chambers. What I've noticed over the summer on the odd occasion that I've walked down is Director Littleborn is there every time I'm there, so I know you spend countless Saturdays down there, and we do appreciate that. I know you take that very seriously, and Caitlin does an absolute amazing job. And I think I brought that up before when we had the display stuff going on up at the Gemini back in the summer, that she does a wonderful job for the community. I know each and every councillor has spent time down there. You're well appreciated for what you do. It's been noted since I was there basically at the end of the summer. I was picking up on everybody who likely was talking to the other councillors throughout the summer and our staff. And it's noticed, and people appreciate it, and they really enjoy that opportunity to take sometimes an hour of your time, other times 5 minutes. So to everybody that participated, staff and council, it was noted. It's just a great public service to offer, and I was really happy to be part of it on Saturday.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just one final comment on mine. I think everyone knows my thing about communication. Just again, the troubles that Southwest Middlesex had with their flooding, and watching the communication. And I spoke about this today to CAO, and I'll now speak to the deputy chief. We have a fantastic emergency plan, but I did ask the CAO if we could review the communication portion of that. I've read it myself. It does need some upgrading. I just asked that you review that and bring it back to council so that council can review it. I know yearly we look at the emergency plan, but I think it's important that not only the communication piece be updated, but also that council be aware of it. If we can find the opportunity to make sure that the public is well versed on it, because As you will know, Deputy Mayor, in times of crisis, communication is most important. So I have asked the CAO to bring that back to council so we can review it, so. And yes, tomorrow is back to school. Thank you for that. I know that my daughter with 5 kids is very excited. Now moving to in camera, the council may move into closed session to discuss the proposed land acquisition and disposal of land, legal matters relating to the Adelaide Metcalf Servicing Agreement, and the Ontario Land Tribunal, and a procedural matter to approve in camera meeting minutes as permitted by section 239 of the Ontario Municipal Act and council's procedure file. I have a motion to move into closed session. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Wilsey. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Back in open session, we did meet in closed session and discuss the proposed land acquisition and disposal of land, legal matters relating to the Adelaide Metcalf Servicing Agreement and the Ontario Land Tribunal, and a procedural matter to approve in-camera meeting minutes as permitted by Section 239 of the Ontario Municipal Act and Council's Procedure Bylaw. Next regular scheduled meeting is Monday, September 18th at 6 o'clock. With that, we'll have a motion to adjourn. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, we are adjourned.